All right. Hello, everyone. My name's Jane, and I would like to say a huge thank you to you for joining us for this very special live Farmer Time event to celebrate National Ag Week. Now, I'm going to hand over to our amazing producer, Farmer Sarah, and she's going to talk to you all about her amazing goat production. All right. Thanks so much, Sarah. Take it away.
Thanks, Jane. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah, and I have a dairy goat farm where we have dairy goats, which we milk every morning, and then we take the milk and we make it into cheese to sell. So my husband Daniel and I, we both grew up in the city in Melbourne. We never thought in a million years that we would become farmers. After school, I studied law and became a lawyer, and Daniel studied engineering, and he went to work in building roads. About 8 years ago, we decided to take a trip overseas, and we went to work on a goat farm. And we fell in love with those cheeky, curious, very smart animals. And we started talking to each other about maybe when we come back to Australia, we should become goat farmers. And so that's what we did when we came back to Melbourne. We bought a farm about an hour away from Melbourne and started working on building up a goat business. When we first started, before we had any animals on our farm, we stopped and we asked ourselves, what are the things that are going to be important to us in running a farm business? And we made a list. And on our list, number one was to have happy and healthy goats. We care a lot about having happy and healthy goats on our farm, and each one of our goats has their own name and is given their own special treatment. And when we have babies born on the farm, unlike a lot of other dairy farms, we keep the babies with their mum, and so they can drink milk from the mum and be taken care of by their goatee mum. The second thing on our list was to have a good, healthy farmland. We have a pretty small farm, and so we can't have too many goats on the farm, or else they'll eat all the grass down and there'll be nothing left but dirt, and our land will get very, very sick. So we're very careful about how many goats we have on our farm, and we're very careful to move the goats to a new paddock all the time so they always have fresh grass to eat. And then the next thing on our list that was going to be important to us for running our business was to make delicious cheese. And we didn't really know much about cheese making when we started out, but I went to a few classes by a French cheese expert and started practicing making cheese at home on a little pot on my stove. And that's how I started making cheese, just with a little pot on my stove. So we thought, if we have all of those three things, if we have healthy goats and we have healthy land and we make delicious cheese, then we should have a business that makes money. And so that's sort of where the point that we started from. But in the beginning, we had a lot of work to do. When we moved to our farm, there was only a house and then grass up to your waist and nothing. We had to do all of the tracks on the farm for the goats to walk from place to place and for cars to drive. We had to do all the fencing. We had to put in all the sheds. We had to build all the dairy equipment and all the cheese making equipment. And altogether, from the day that we moved onto the farm to the day that we sold our first piece of cheese, it took 6 years. So we started selling our cheese nearly 3 years ago now. And we mostly sell to farmers markets. We really love farmers markets, especially because we can meet and talk to other farmers and have conversations about what's going on in the farming world with them. how is their farm going? How did it survive the big rains? Oh, hay's getting pretty expensive now, or hay's very cheap. We also sell to shops, a few shops in Melbourne and a few shops in regional Victoria, and we sell to restaurants to use our cheese in their menus. Altogether, on the farm, we have 45 goats, and at the moment, we are milking 28. And so you may wonder, well, why have you got 45 goats and you're only milking 28? What are you doing with all the rest of them? Well, to produce milk, a goat has to first have a kid, a little baby goat. So all the goats that we milk have already had baby goats, which means we can milk them once their babies have finished drinking their milk. And we have a whole lot of goats, some very young and some a little bit older, that will eventually get pregnant and we will start milking them. So the main the main goal that we have is to be milking between about 40 and 50 goats. And that's just about the biggest size that we can get to with the size of our farm that we live on. Now, I've got some pictures here to show you. And then after we look at the pictures, I've also got a little presentation. Now, I'm going to have to share my screen with you. I'll just make sure this can work. Jane, can you see that?
Yes, looks like we're just about to be able to see. Yeah, perfect.
Right. So here we have Celeste. She was born last August. She's the daughter of Meridian, and she's about half an hour old in that photo. Her mum's just given birth. They give birth out in the paddock where they want to be most comfortable. And then we bring them into the shed to protect them from the weather and from any foxes that might be around. And so mum and baby will stay together for about 6 weeks. And during the day, the babies will go out with mum in the paddocks and then come back inside. And we've got here some pictures of the goats going out to our paddocks. This is Mariah. She's a very cheeky goat. Let's have a look. We've got Kira over here eating some grass. I know all of my goats' names. This is one of the cheeses that we make, a fresh goat cheese before it's been packaged up. Here we go. Here we have Blueberry with her 2 babies, Strawberry and Logan. We've named that family all after different berries. So when we see Strawberry and Blueberry out in the paddock, we immediately know they're mother and daughter. Here we have them all up on the milking line. And then they're heading back up to the shed and to the paddocks after being milked in the morning. I'll just show you a quick photo of the cheeses that we make. These are the kinds of cheeses we make. So all fresh goat cheese. You might have heard of feta before. That's one of the cheeses we make. And we make halloumi and we make yogurts as well. So there they are there. Now, I'll just pop on a video. It goes for 7 minutes and it tells you, we made this video at the beginning of last year when everyone was in lockdown. We made it as a virtual excursion. So it's a little bit old, but you'll still get the idea.
Hello and welcome to our farm. We're extremely happy to be taking you on this virtual excursion to a goat dairy where we're going to show you how we milk the goats and make cheese.
This is where we make cheese from goat's milk. This is the dairy where the goats get milked. There's the milking machine, and that's the stand where the goats will be. Over here we have all their food. They get a special breakfast. Now here we go to collect the goats to bring them for milking. There's 20 goats and they all have their own names. Morning, girls. This is Meridian. She's always at the front. Morning. Come on. Come on, girls. Let's go. Come on. Come on. Up. Out we go. Come on, girls. Morning, Sabine. Come on, girls. Let's go. Come on, Bronte. Come on, darling. Let's go. Come on, girls. Come on, girls. Come on. Here's Maria being naughty again. Come on. Here we have Tina about to start milking all the goats. They've come down, they're up on the line, but first she needs to clean their udders. This is to make sure that there's no mud and dirt that goes into the milk. And she cleans everyone's udder really, really well with a cloth just dipped in warm water. There's no need for soap or chemicals because we don't want that in the milk either. Now she's going to start the machine and just start milking the goats for us. After we put the goats on the milking machine, we hand milk them for the last little bit of milk to take care of their udders and their teats to make sure they're not on the milking machine for too long. And here's Mr. T. He drinks all the spilt milk, so there's no need to cry over spilt milk in the dairy. The goats are just finishing off their breakfast. And Tina's now going to come and let them out so everybody can go home. Here they all are, going home. It's going to be a rainy day today, so all the girls are probably going to spend the whole day lounging around in the shed, eating hay. So now we're in the cheese room, where we make the cheese. This is all our equipment. Now we're going to look at the pasteuriser. So the milk comes into this great big vat called a pasteuriser where it gets heated up to kill the germs. And now we have set some curd. Sarah's going to stir the curd. I'm using these great big things that have got wire to cut the curd into nice even sized pieces. Then we cut long ways, and then once we finish cutting long ways, we cut across and make nice even sized cubes. And what's in here is
in about 4 hours, this will be ready to take out of the vat and press into molds. And then tomorrow, it will become halloumi. Now here we have our halloumi from yesterday. It's been pressed into these molds overnight and they're quite soft, but we're going to put them in some boiling salt and water, and that's going to change the texture and it's going to make it hold its shape when you fry it up in a pan and go squeak, squeak, squeak between your teeth when you eat it. So follow me and we'll go and put it in the vat now. I'll take 2 pieces at a time because it's very fragile. Here we go, we'll put it into the water, and once that boils up, we'll take it out, we'll package it up and put it in the fridge ready to eat. And here we have the final step of making halloumi. We finished boiling it, it's been in the fridge cooling down, and it's now nice hard little cubes, and we're going to fry it up in the pan. Right, here we go, it's frying up. Lovely and brown and crispy and ready to eat. Thank you for coming along with us for our day at the goat farm, and we hope one day soon you'll be able to come here for real life.
Okay, so that was it.
Thank you so much for that, Sarah. That was amazing. And I can attest to the fact that I've been to Sarah's farm and I've eaten some of that halloumi and it is delicious. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Alrighty. So what we're going to do now, if it's okay, we're going to take a few questions just in the chat. If anybody has any questions for Farmer Sarah about her goat dairy production at all. So if you would like to pop your questions in the chat, if students have questions, teachers might like to type them in. And then we're going to pick a few to read out today. And any that we don't get to, we will send answers to via email. So if anyone would like to ask a question now, they can pop those in the chat. Can I be cheeky and ask a question? Oh, what breed are your goats? We've got an awesome question there.
Oh, that's a great question. So we started out with just Saanen goats, which are that typical sort of white dairy goat. But we've started introducing a lot of other breeds. The brown ones that you saw in the video are Toggenburgs. And since we've made that video, we've started using some La Mancha genetics, which come from the United States. And La Mancha goats have no ears at all. They look very, very strange, but they produce a wonderful creamy milk that's very good for cheese making.
Oh, amazing. I've got another question that says, how much cheese do you make? And is there a season for cheese making?
So the amount of cheese we make differs a lot depending on what time of year it is. So in winter, the amount of milk naturally drops and we have a lot less milk to work with. On average, I'm just trying to think, we probably make about between 30 and 50 kilos of cheese a week across the whole year. And when we have pregnant goats, we don't milk them, so we've got a bit less. After they've just given birth, we've got a lot of milk. So, yeah, and I think my favourite season for cheese making would be spring, because it's that you can taste the difference in the cheese from season to season with the goat milk, and I think the spring milk makes a lovely cheese.
Beautiful. We've got a question that says, why is the cheese so fragile?
Oh, well, when the cheese comes out of the mold, it's still very, very soft. It hasn't finished hardening yet. And then when you boil it up in the water, it makes more of the liquid in the cheese come out. And when you take it out, it's a lot firmer. If that makes sense.
Definitely. All right. Our final question is from the students at Anarchy Primary, and they said, how many kids do the goats have each year?
Most goats will have 2 kids. Sometimes they can have 3 or 1 kid. We've never had more than 3 kids born at a time, but I know some other goat farmers, the most I've ever heard of is 5 being born for the 1 goat.
Oh, wow.
And if that happens, you might have to separate off some of the babies and feed them with a bottle, because it might be a bit too much for mum to feed them all on her own. But usually they have twins.
Yeah. Nice. All right. We've got one more that says, what happens when the goats stop giving milk?
So we've got one goat now who's very old goat, and we don't get her pregnant anymore. And she just stays as part of the herd, but she's retired. So she just goes out to the paddock, eats the hay, but doesn't get milked. If a goat is young enough to keep milking and strong enough, then we can take the goat to the buck, and so she becomes pregnant again. And after she has another baby, she will start milking.
Awesome. Oh, that's fantastic. And I have to say that one goat that is retired, Blueberry, lives a very happy life as well. She's got a special little coat and she seems very content living her life, eating hay and hanging out in the paddocks. All right. Thank you so much, Sarah, for your time today. That was phenomenal. I would like to say a huge thank you to all of the students that came along today and all of the fantastic questions that we had. At the end of this session, you're going to receive an email, teachers, with some information regarding the recording of this session so that you can watch it again if you would like to, some resources that you can access to continue your Ag Week celebrations with food and fibre activities in the classroom. And if you would like to, we would love to have student numbers from each of you so that we can send some resource packs out to you with some stickers and pens and some other awesome food and fibre resources. So a huge thank you to everyone for your participation today, and have a wonderful Ag Week. Thank you.
Thank you.